Boom, gang, gang. All right. Tuesday night, 7 p.m. I got to market these a little more, guys. But we're going to be talking about HRV, heart rate variability. Well, I first figure out which markers are working and which are not. I'm going to throw away the ones that are not working. There we go. Fantastic. All right, guys. So if you're watching the replay, super cool. You can just jump into 2 minutes, and that's when I'm going to get started. But in the meantime, I'm going to hang out for about 90 seconds. I have a bite of steak I got to eat. So whatever, if that's a problem with you, too bad. It's called getting your foods in. Pretty much I'm never upset at somebody that needs to eat or something real quick. Okay, HRV, heart rate variability, guys. Guys, here's something I've learned about heart rate variability, is that people pay big fucking bucks to figure out how to learn this, all right, and to figure out how to master this. And listen, I am by no means an expert yet, but I know a lot now. So I know a lot more than I did about 6 months ago. But I'm going to give it about 20 more seconds to let this hop in. I have 2 more bites of steak I got to eat, and then we are getting into it. But hey, guys, if you know anything about HRV, you want to ask a question or give me something you want to hear more about, fire it off, fellas. Okay, 2 minutes. Fantastic. Okay. Heart rate variability. What is HRV? Heart rate variability. All right, so when your heart beats, right, your heart is not actually beating. Like if it's 60 beats per minute, it's not actually exactly every 1 beat per second. There are little tiny variations from beats to beat. So 1 beat might be 0.9 seconds apart, and another beat might be 1.1 seconds apart. Okay, and now a healthy heart actually wants a greater range and variety of what is called variability, right? So why is that? This is because what HRV is showing is it's showing how good of a job that your body is doing managing and handling stressors. Okay, so stress, stimulation, fatigue, all of that stuff. This is exactly what HRV shows you. It shows you how your body manages that. So just for you to remember, this is like basically the read of average. Well, it's not exactly average, but like okay. Difference between heartbeats, okay? Difference between heartbeats. So, all right, strapping in. So again, it's not exactly, if you have 60 beats per minute, we're not at like 1 beat every second. We are at like 0.9 or 1.1, and it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So this is all about how you handle stress, okay? And the reason that this is important for athletes is that we on purpose are under stress, okay? Now, there are really kind of like 2 types of stress that you want to think about, and this is really important here. There is what's called hermetic stress, and I'm going to be honest, I don't remember the term for the other one, but we'll just call it other stress, okay? But hermetic stress is good stress. So our goal is to turn good stress, or to turn any stress into hermetic stress. But hermetic, more specifically, is used in the terms of like what you choose. Okay, so hermetic stress could be a cold plunge, right? Like chosen suffering. Hermetic stress could be a really hard workout. That is a chosen suffering and chosen stress. But the idea behind hermetic stress is that we are improving our body's stress response so that we can take a load on and adapt and recover and get the benefits from these things. So this is like sort of the thing why cold plunges are so popular or why they've gotten really popular again recently is because, wellness is back, right? There was a kind of a time where it was just about like aesthetics and appearance, but now people are a lot more interested in like the holistic side of things, like as you probably know, I am, right? So cold plunges are hermetic stress because what we're trying to do is teach you how to calm your mind, calm yourself while getting some of the like cold water exposure benefits that relaxes your body. It will reduce inflammation in your joints, right? But it's really about like the breathing and the mind control that you have to have going into that. Because if you get into your cold plunge and you just start freaking out and panicking right away, you're going to want to get out immediately and probably will jump out immediately. So that's not good. Then you're not in there for any time at all. And you're just panicked, right? When the whole goal is to, downshift, find some calm, and that's it. Find some calm. No other point past that. But okay, so other stresses though are, let's just say you had a tough day at work, or somebody cuts you off in traffic, or you're just sitting through a whole bunch of construction, or just something in your life happens that's totally unexpected, right? Like, how do you handle that, right? Like, do you, again, like it's are you going into a panic, or do you just treat it like very neutrally? These things affect your heart rate variability, but it's a read on like how do you cope with that? If you get hit by traffic or get stuck in traffic and you just are cool and say it is what it is, no problem. Move right along, and then you can stay present and stay focused on the matter at hand. So, I feel a little all over the place right now. So let's reel this in. What does HRV do? HRV gives you the ability to stay balanced with your state. So when your heart rate has a lot of this variability where it's beating very short between beats, it's beating very long between beats, that means it can kind of dip into different ranges of brain waves and brain waves, exactly, like pretty much on demand. So, as you go throughout your day, you have different states that you are in. So like the first stage of deep sleep, you're in delta brain waves, right? And that does have certain functions. When you wake up in the morning, you are in what's called alpha brain waves, right? Those have certain things. You're also going to beta, and then there's theta brain waves. So your heart responds differently to all of those. Now, what's really interesting is that you can be basically hypnotized under certain states, right? And this doesn't mean that somebody's influencing you. This means that you just are more susceptible to be influenced, right? This is like why it's so important to start your day with a good morning routine, is because right after you wake up, you are in what's called this alpha brainwave state, which is a very suggestive state that you are in. So if you start your day and you are just panicked out the gate, you will continue to be panicked all day. Instead of, if you start your day calmly, maybe you start with reading a book or prayer or meditation, or I start with breath work every day, to set the tone that my body is going to be cool, calm, and collected, and I am going to be in control. When I do that in the alpha brainwave state, then you're setting the tone for the entire day that's how you're going to exist. So people like I said, hypnosis tapes or audio books, some people like motivational books, but it's very important that what you're doing in that very first moments of the day is something that subtly brainwashes you in the direction that you want to go. Because you, again, are literally in brainwave states that is susceptible to like a hypnotic response, right? When you go into what's called beta brainwaves, then you're a little more reactive, right? Like you are just going about your day, this and that, but whatever, whole different point. So when you are in a like suggested state, like again, anything's possible. You can shift how you want to proceed past that. So we're bouncing again throughout our day in different brain waves, but we obviously don't want to be in just like a super reactive one all the time, right? There are moments of time when we want to, be on high alert. There are other times where we need to be in a flow state where we're not thinking about much. But if we're stressed and we're just reactive to things, like we are not in control, right? Like if you've ever been like super pissed, you're like grumpy that you're late and you're in a bunch of traffic and you're heading to work and you're thinking, God, it's gonna be such a shitty day. And then you like drive like a manic and you like almost get in a couple car wrecks because you're not focusing. Like that's the reactive state that we're sort of talking about. Or in strongman competitions, when you make mistakes and they're sloppy, right? We want to get out of that state as quickly as possible. And if we have like an actual low HRV reading, then you're going to have a harder time getting out of that. Now, this is very important to understand, is that there's not like, hey, your HRV should be this. What is most important is that you figure out a pattern that is going to allow you to improve. Okay, so I posted this on my story just not too long ago, but over the last few months, I've gone from an average of about 49 to 58. And like some people are in the triple digits, like endurance athletes, this and that. But strength athletes are going to have a harder time with this for several reasons. And one of them is just that like heavy strength training is very strenuous on the heart. So that is going to like take a dip in order to recover and handle the stress. But we should not be seeing things in like regularly in the 40s or the 30s, or just like a pattern where it's not improving at all whatsoever. That's really like the worst thing, is either it's going down or it's staying stagnant. Because with our training, we don't want to just get physically strong. We want to be functional and capable to use our strength in our real life, use our strength in competition. So if we are not also developing the ability to shift our state, then it's like not really that good, right? Like you're just developing a bunch of strength that is useless, or at least maybe 10% of what it could be. So how do we do this, right? There's a few different ways, but a lot of it does happen with your breath. And now it's kind of hard to, I don't want to say that, but when we're doing this, you kind of have to understand that we're looking at this from an all-encompassing perspective. So this is why I cannot anymore just like talk about things like the physical only. It is mind, body, soul, all connected. Okay, so a lot of this starts with the breath. Okay, but breath is tied to your physical performance. So the easiest way to impact your HRV is through zone 2 cardio. Now, what is that? Zone 2 cardio is, depending on who you ask, it can be defined slightly different, but it's basically 60 to 70% of your max heart rate, okay? And why does that improve your HRV? Well, actually what happens here is, this is an elevated, stimulated state, but like without putting your body into hyper and overdrive. So when we're in zone 2, we're like consciously, mentally staying in a zone that should be like tedious and boring to just do, right? Like zone 2 cardio is just like a task. Unfortunately, it's like not that exciting. Everybody wants to do like HIIT training. Should say everybody, but it's like it's easier to just go crank out like 10 minutes of HIIT than it is to do 30, 40 minutes of like zone 2 cardio. But when we're doing zone 2, like we have to like mentally be aware and alert enough to the task on hand to keep us within certain ranges, because we do have to just be gently stimulated, but we also can push into where our heart rate is beating really hard. And you can self-auto-regulate with these things by breathing only through your nose, right? So what happens when you're breathing through your nose is you're intentionally restricting the amount of air that is coming in and out of your body, because if you were to take a breath in and out, you can, by volume, take in a lot more through your mouth. But when you limit yourself to nasal breathing only, then you have to stay in this like calmer state. So you're getting a lot of like positive stimulation in through your system, circulation through your body, but without a really big delivery of oxygen that allows you to push too hard. So there's a little bit of mental going on there, but it is like the physical mechanism that's happening at the same time. Now, that's again with your breath. The other way to do this is just like strictly through breath work. Okay, now this is really cool stuff. Now, there are many different breath work patterns. Okay. But really what works to boost specifically your HRV are slower, what they would call coherence or resonance breathing patterns. So the coherence pattern is defined as 5.5 seconds in through the nose, 5.5 seconds out through the mouth. Now, what's really interesting is that there's a bunch of different religious rituals, mantras, omens, psalms, and hymns that match that perfectly. You go look this up. There are Hindu om mantras. There are Gregorian chants that match this perfectly. But this is something that a lot of ancient cultures all sort of came upon in different ways. Now, maybe it was by accident, or maybe they knew and purposely encoded that into these things, but it doesn't matter. A lot of different people figured this out. And doing that is doing a couple things. First, it's slowing your heart rate down. Okay. Another interesting fact is that the animals with the longest lifespans have the slowest resting heart rates. Blue whales being, I think, the longest lifespan and slowest breath pattern. Anyways, Galapagos tortoise is another one. Anyways, when we slow our heart rate down, we are shifting into the parasympathetic state. So parasympathetic state is the opposite of the sympathetic, which is like the alert, aroused phase. We are in the rest and digest state. And what happens in the parasympathetic state is our nervous system is telling you that you are safe. Now, this is something I did not believe, but I heard a lot of people say over and over and over again, is that your nervous system has two modes, right? Everybody says fight or flight, but I think a lot of people don't really understand what that means. What I think is easier to understand it in is that you are either in a safe nervous system state or you are in a alert, alarmed, super aroused nervous system state, right? We have these two ends. So figuring out, it is a spectrum, but it is here to here. Figuring out when to be in the alert state and when to be in the sympathetic state is what all this shifting your state is about. But when we're in the safe zone, when we're in the safety net of that, a few things can happen. Physically, your body is allowed to relax, okay? And now, there are things that happen in your body, trauma is literally stored in your body, in your fascia, through different things that are not just major moments in your life, but if you just have a little thing here or there that rubs you the wrong way, it leaves a physical imprint in your muscle stores. So when we do things like breath work and meditation, you allow your whole body to physically relax, which allows those things to release, which feeds up again into your brain and your mind, which is how you think, so you can think clearly about what you want to do. And the more we do that, the more just open and creative and open-minded and better we are emotional. Because if we're just carrying all of these different things that have happened to us, not only over days, but over weeks, years, blah, 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 then we can't ever really think clearly, I was had to talk about this with one of my friends the other day, and I always loved lifting. I always knew that I was probably going to be lifting for life, but it wasn't until I actually started taking care of my mind, body, soul appropriately, started cutting out weed. I actually dealt with some of my past issues, faced them head on, started talking to people, to get my shit out of me. Once I started doing all of that is when I started to personally realize hey, you know what? In fact, I do want to go all the way with this strongman thing. But it was all this crap that was clouding me up, forever. And I'm not gonna lie, psychedelic use was a big part of that, but it's not something that everybody has to do. Really good breathwork practices, really good mindfulness practices are fantastic, but you don't have to even get there through that. You can get these through walks in nature or, being in a natural body of water. You can get these through social times, laughing with friends and family. You can get this through being around loved ones. So there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat, but what we're trying to get at is, a body, mind, and soul that are loose and unencumbered and working in harmony and unison with what you want to do. So if we are strong men who are going into the gym and just beating the hell out of ourselves over and over and over again, our muscles get tight, they get wound up, bound and constricted, and we're not allowing things like energy, oxygen, nutrients, blood to really flow freely through our body when we should have some level of like constant recycling. Because whether you know this or not, it's just true. Like your body is in at least it should be, a constant state of regeneration. Actually, death is when you stop regenerating things in your body successfully. So we want to make sure that we have this like balanced practice going on that allows us to go into the gym, hit it real freaking hard, but without like totally destroying our body, our muscles, our joints, our nervous system, so we can just get better faster, right? And this is like kind of why it is important to track HRV, is because HRV can actually be looked at this like reading of like, is my full everything actually improving? We have what's called heart-brain coherence, right? HRV is like basically heart-brain coherence. Like it is another way. There's a lot of different ways to view this. This is why it's complicated if you're first trying to understand it. Your heart and mind should work together, right? Like this is what I was talking about earlier. Is like my heart was telling me that I wanted to do lifting, I wanted to be involved in strongman, but my brain was keeping me distracted with all this other stuff. So like once I clear everything out, and I get these things working 2 and 2, that I can like lead with my best foot forward into the things I really passionately care about, and now bring like a good, smart, intellectual wits with me forward into these passions, and then things just start building up on each other like crazy. Now combine that with like when you're focused and you have a vision and you have a clear-cut goal for what you want, all these things that are in your path become a lot less worrisome, right? This is kind of the other part of this, is that if you have this goal that's like out in front of you that you really truly care about, like that's your passion, why you want to get there, and you are driven to get there, then like the hard work that you have to get to is just secondary, right? Like I shouldn't say secondary, but it's all good. Like you just are fine with doing it. Like, I don't even want to phrase it that way. I want to do all these things. Like when I get to the gym, like I do want to do all of my movement prep. I have a lot of mobility and movement prep that I do, but I do generally embrace it. Sometimes it's cumbersome because it's a lot, but like I know what I want to do. I know what I'm getting after. So yeah, here I am. I like it. Let's go. Question here. Would I suggest Mike Metzer training approach to a med student with a heavy schedule, male age 22, height 6'4", weight 102 kg? So if by Mike Metzer, I assume you mean Mike Metzer train as in like this is like relatively low frequency but really, really high intensity. Which would be like maybe like 2 days a week, but you go in and just like absolutely freaking smash it. Like, yeah, that would be awesome. That'd be a great approach. What I actually would try and suggest is, well, first off, I think you should always do what you want to do. So if that like style of training calls to you, heck yeah, bro, that is awesome. If I was talking to somebody and I was working with somebody like coaching, hey, you've got a super busy schedule, what I would do instead is super short, super intense workouts, higher frequency if you could. Now, if you're going to the gym, like that's cool and that takes time. Like maybe you can only do that 2 days a week. Maybe you just go in and do a couple compound lifts to like build up. But then the rest of your time, like I don't care how busy you are, I know for sure you can do 10 to 15 minutes of really hard calisthenics every day. So I would try to get you to do something like push-ups, pull-ups, and squats on an intense time cap, what we would call density training, where you set a 15-minute window and you try to increase the volume of what you do in that 15 minutes. You could either do like repeated, like almost every day, where you do push-ups, squats, pull-ups. You do like 5-5-5. Just repeat as many times as you can. Or you could do day 1 push-ups, day 2 squats, day 3 pull-ups, and then like repeat, right? Just again, like as many as you can in 15 minutes. And every new workout, you want to beat that by like 1, okay? So just do one more than last time, or you do the same throughout the entire week. The following week, you come back, do one more. That's how I would approach that personally. So back to HRV though, is like when you have a very clear-cut goal, which sometimes for people is very hard. Sometimes people don't know exactly what they want, but like clearing house with things like breath work, meditation, getting your body to relax, and get your head out of your ass, for lack of a better term, like it's going to allow you to have a clearer vision. When you have that clear vision, like you can relax into some of the daily things that you have to do that may feel monotonous, and then you can just get after it and live your life with a lot less stress. Brother, anything that you stick to and eat appropriately with is good for hypertrophy. It doesn't matter if it's bodybuilding, strongman, calisthenics, dude. I could show you people that only do prison calisthenic workouts that are freaking jacked, bro. I promise you, like, what is the most important thing is that you get out there and you get started. You got to pick something and you've got to stick to it. So is that better for hypertrophy? What is best for you for hypertrophy is whatever you can stick to over time. Keep adding bit by bit by bit to, and that is it. There's no secret pill or secret method. Like, if you really like that and it works for you, that's awesome. But I promise you, if you pick something, progress it weekly, and eat appropriately to complement hypertrophy, high protein, sufficient calories to build muscle, almost anything is going to work. I promise you. But now continuing on, mind, body, soul, guys, is basically what I'm getting at. So this is also like another good thing, because it's like a good question that this guy's asking here. He's asking me about style of training. Is it better for hypertrophy, this or that? Like, you have to have the patience to see things through long term. Straight up. If you do not understand this, like, you're done. You're cooked. Fucking cooked. I've seen so many people come and go that get like really jazzed up and into it, and they're in it for, up to 2 years, maybe like a pretty decent time. And they're seeing all these noob gains pay off. It's like real cool and exciting. But then when they hit the first real point of adversity, they fall off because they're like not actually connected to what is their grand goal, or they're not doing things that keep them in a nice balance that gets them to be in a mentally good state and a good place for physical performance. So you have to do things that are, 1, keeping you relaxed, 2, supporting your mind, body, soul, and 3, like, in pursuit of your grand vision. So, this is something I've talked about in some videos before. Check Institute. It's a framework, a course that I'm going through for like current personal trainer. It's not even personal trainer. That's not the right term. Health coaching certification. Guys, it goes 1. Number 1, we always start with our one goal, our one dream. Because again, if we can figure that out, then whatever's in the way is worth going through. And we can approach it with a lot less stress. Number 1. Number 2, you have 2 forces. You have yin yang. There's a sympathetic, parasympathetic. Yang is the like active, like forceful side of things. Yin is the relaxed, parasympathetic side of things. You have to figure out at what moment in time do I need to be tapping into the yang energy, or do I need to be tapping into the yin energy, right? Yin is like sleep, is like recovery, like restoration, but that only works to its fullest extent when you have the yang during the day of building, breaking down your body. You have to like actually like break it down. Your brain is going through a whole lot to like process all the things that you have to do throughout the day. So you have to like break it down a little bit to build it back up. You have to have the balance. You have to have the day and the night. You have winter and summer. So whatever you're going through, right, it's all about having this sustainable balance. 1, dream, 2, forces, 3, and then it's decisions, right? Because you really have 3 choices at all times according to this framework. The first is just like a selfish, this is for me only goal. The second is like, this is an indifferent goal, or like a neutral choice rather. Like, this is something that keeps me where I'm at forever. So this is something like, hey, I am eating right, I am doing my workouts, following my training program, but I really like to smoke weed. So I'm going to hit this joint today. And that's like a neutral choice. Like, that's something that's just kind of keeping you where you're at, or maybe even regressing you. And then the third one is Third choice is what's good for you and your team. So this means like you, your partners, your friends. If you have business partners, like them, so we should obviously be making choices that is not just like good for the selfish me, but for the me that is part of this community, right? Because like, what the hell are you even doing any of this stuff for anyways? Are you doing it 100% entirely for you? Probably not. You're probably doing it for your kids or your spouse or your family, or if you want to be the number one strongman in the world, like that is to send a ripple effect out there to inspire people and be a really esteemed person in your community that lifts others up in the same way that your strongman heroes did, right? Moving on, we're not going to go through the whole framework, but number 4, this is kind of the last name, is because it helps with balance. They call it the last 4 doctors you ever need. So Dr. Diet, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Happiness, Dr. Movement, okay? So if you figure out your balance of diet, quiet, happiness, and movement, that's why they call it the last 4 doctors you'll ever need, is because that is what all of this really boils down to. You have to have the right diet, right? You have to have the right quiet. So is that meditation, breath work? Is that prayer? Is that going on walks through the woods? Is that quiet beach time? Is that going for a drive in your truck, listening to music, just zoning out, like, and that is a meditative state of sorts in itself. So diet, quiet, happiness. You have to have something that makes you happy and driven. Number 4 is movement, is what level of movement complements all of that other stuff. So, we've kind of gone a little all over the place with some of these topics, but I think you have to, so I'll work on getting this a little more refined and like point by point by point. But HRV is like a read on your wellness in some regards, right? Like, are you able to take a bump and keep going? That's something that this tells you. And since HRV is different depending on, your lifestyle, your genetics, your training, if you're on any supplements, how much caffeine you have, like there's wildly different scores across that are not necessarily bad. But what you do need to understand is that you should be trying to improve this, and you should be paying attention to it. If you've got Whoop, Garmin, smartwatch, like an Aura Ring, guys, are a lot of cool devices. I didn't believe in Whoop forever, but now I like really like it and I use it. I'm not married to the data, but I'm able to identify what is going on in my life that like sends me into a fucking spiral. So that's that, guys. I'm gonna hang out for about 2 more minutes, but guys, HRV is super cool. Gonna be really working on this a lot more in the future, but you should start tracking it. Thanks, brother. Thanks, man. God bless. You're super jacked. I'm trying. Bro. I'm trying to get super jacked, man. So I appreciate that. Super cool. Yeah, not much. And if you're still with me, I use some of these as brainstorm sessions. Like, I do know a good bit about this, but man, like, it helps me like think this out and talk it out, because I'm trying to understand this. But I'm telling you, there's one person watching this right now. Doug, there are people that get paid like thousands per hour to teach other people this stuff. So I'm figuring it out, because it is elite shit, dog. It is elite. And I just basically think like the sooner that you, whoever you are, anybody, starts paying attention to these things, the better you're going to get. Because, dude, what the hell, man? I don't regret anything, because I am where I am. But what if I started breathwork 5 years ago? What if whatever. I don't play those games, but, just interesting, because I'm now deep enough into this journey to where I am seeing the rewards and the benefits. Dude, the level of recovery that I have right now is fucking insane, dude. My jumps that I am able to make from week to week, and how like I can make a 10. Guys, I went from 245 on my split squats to 330 this week. I made a 90-pound jump. I mean, that's over like that's like a 35% jump, and it felt like about the same. Now, of course, like having the right workout program that's in sync with that really helps. But like because my like heart and mind are the most in tune they've ever been in my entire fucking life, you know, it's allowing me to make good choices with my diet, quiet happiness movement, and I'm recovering like crazy. And that's just like all I want for you people, dude. So that's that. Anyways, guys, World's Strongest Manatee number 6 coming right up. Thanks, bro. Keep it up. World's Strongest Manatee number 6 coming real soon. That is next weekend. But I'm out of here. Got any questions? Hit me up on Instagram at StephenMCoin. Have a good night. Stay strong. Have a championship night. Yeah.